I must say I was actually somewhat surprised that Greg Doucette took the time to actually comment on my video more cardio than the last time. Now, I want him to understand, it did come across as though I haven't understood what he was saying or that I was misleading. And perhaps I was, and I want to clarify this. I did not mean to mislead the public on what Greg's message was. Greg doesn't say do cardio for longer durations than the last time, and he has actually stated that, if you're really sore after cardio, dial it back a bit. He does make different safety recommendations and things like that that are responsible. He also wanted to let me know that he does also do light weights at high repetitions also. Light weights at high repetitions is actually common in bodybuilding. And I do want to make sure people know that. I can see how that video that I made previously does seem to take things out of context. And I want to go over what my overarching point was of that video, and he will disagree with me. My overarching point, and like Greg says, he recommends 150 minutes of exercise, 150 minutes of cardio a week. And that's what's recommended by the government. That's what's recommended by the bodies that govern, health advice in this country. And I suppose in Canada also. But what you need to understand is what my overarching point was in that video is that there is research showing that weightlifting and strength training may actually be not only equal to, but greater than cardio in relation to promoting heart health. And this is where I think that Greg and I disagree, and I will admit there is far more evidence showing that cardio is better for cardiac health than strength training. Okay, so he has the research on his side with that, and he is accurate as far as the research shows, as far as the number of studies show, that cardio is necessary to have a healthy heart. I think what I did not mention was that I guess where I disagree with Greg is that he says it's necessary to do cardio for a healthy heart. And I don't think it is. When I was my healthiest, and this is the thing, I also want to get this out there. I need to thank Greg Doucette because it was his videos. Now I don't follow the Circle Diet, which is his diet, which is, from his cookbook and whatnot. I do not follow his dietary advice per se, but watching Greg's videos, I was a personal trainer. I never actually was employed as a personal trainer. I was employed as I guess the closest you can get with that was I did nutritional counseling at a mental health clinic while working at the mental health clinic doing other things. So that was the closest I became to a nutritional counselor. Now, I never had a set diet. Ultimately, I was just trying to help people eat a more nutrient-dense, less calorie-rich diet, and I would implement various diets so that these people could pick which diets. Mediterranean diet, Atkins diet, the Zone diet. I would use a lot of the popular diets because, quite honestly, and this is what frustrates anybody that's worked with overweight people. What's highly frustrating with overweight people, pretty much every diet, especially the popular diets that are like the Atkins diet, the Zone diet, the Mediterranean diet, the African Heritage diet, the Latin American, like the Old Ways diets from oldwayspt.org. These diets all work. Okay, pretty much they all work, and the reason they work is because, as Greg says all the time, it is calories in, calories out. okay, for the most part. Now, I've made other videos showing how there's more to that, and there is, and I have another one coming up with fiber and the role of fiber and insulin-stimulating carbohydrates and fiber, and how fiber regulates blood sugar, and how fiber is not processed as calories by the body. And that's for the future. I'm not doing that video today. And the thing is, what you need to understand is, what's so frustrating working with fat people is that they don't grasp the fact that the main thing with any real diet is consistency. And watching Greg's videos helped me understand, what the hell am I doing to myself? I destroyed my body with the starch solution, with Dr. John McDougall's starch solution. And Dr. McDougall's starch solution actually caused cognitive dissonance with me, because he would incorrectly, and the same thing with Dr. Greger, okay? And I'll get into that, okay? And right after I deal with the Dr. McDougall thing. But the thing with Dr. McDougall was, by him in my opinion, misrepresenting fact, not really misrepresenting fact, but overly representing the benefits of a high carbohydrate diet. A high carbohydrate diet did not work for me, not at all. It was very detrimental to my health after I stopped exercising as much as I was. Now, the original reason I did the starch solution was McDougall said that starch puts muscle on, and I was like, that sounds like horse shit. So I did that. I started exercising like a maniac and eating a starch-centered diet, like an 80-10-10 diet. And it was based in potatoes, and mostly potatoes and sweet potatoes, which are healthy carbohydrates, but they can't be your whole diet. And I got quite fat when I couldn't exercise enough. And that has probably more to do with hormonal reasons related to, like, insulin stimulation and insulin resistance and things like that. And my triglycerides went up. Now, you have to understand, I was not overeating the calories per se. I was eating between 1,800 and 2,000 calories a day. However, I stopped exercising like I was. Now, what's interesting is that starch-centered diet did maintain me. Now, yeah, there's protein in potatoes, and that's one of the reasons why potatoes are a good starch for building muscle, is they do have about 8 grams per potato. But you can't have a diet that's nothing but starch. And I knew that because I had nutrition classes, okay? When I went to school for personal training, I was trained in nutrition, and I counseled people with nutrition. But for whatever reason, I had this cognitive dissonance with Dr. McDougall's starch solution. I figured, well, if it worked for all these people, why is it doing the opposite with me? I got to double down more and double down more. And at the point, you really couldn't, because basically my diet was low protein, low fat, nothing but starch, really. The only fats I had were occasionally in the beans that I would eat, which was not much, because, again, I was trying to obey this starch idea. And I didn't eat any soy products. I quit eating, because prior to this, I was on a where I thrived, I was on an Atkins-style, more or less an Atkins-style vegan diet, okay? Where I didn't monitor my fat. I would just pour fat on. I thrived on that diet for years, and it wasn't until I decided to test out this starch solution that it really screwed my health up. And as people know that follow my channel, I developed asthma, I developed tachycardia, which I still have. The asthma is more or less gone away, unless I get hit by like cigarette smoke or something. But the asthma is more or less gone now that I dropped the weight. I still have more weight to drop. I'm trying to get down to about 170 pounds right now. I fluctuate between 180 and 185, but more or less my weight's going down. I have to remember to weigh myself at the same time every morning, but prior to eating and after using the bathroom. But the thing is, it wasn't until watching Greg Doucette's videos that I realized, what the fuck am I doing to myself? I know more about how to eat than Dr. McDougall. I am more well-trained in how to eat than Dr. McDougall. And I want to remind everybody, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a physician. I'm not this. I'm not that. I was a personal trainer, and I counseled people on nutrition with my personal trainer education at a mental health clinic. Okay, that's the gist of my nutrition information. So I'm not giving people advice. I'm not telling you to eat this way or not eat that way or whatever. If you're eating the starch solution and it's working for you, good luck. I mean, that's great for you. But I know that with me, it made my I had perfect triglycerides. After doing that diet, I had high triglycerides. Okay? So I do know that that diet did have an impact on my health that was corrected when I went back to, and now I do control my fat intake more so. I only get between 15 and 30% of my calories from fat, depending on the day. But I do control my fat now, but essentially I went back on a very high protein vegan diet that is carbohydrate controlled. And I try to get most of my carbohydrates from fiber. As people might know, fiber is counted as a carbohydrate. But I would not have, I would have still been, going over this in my head like, oh, well, I had this cognitive dissonance, like I said, with this starch diet. And it was Greg Doucette's videos, and I started realizing, this is bullshit. Why am I doing this to myself, following this McDougall guy's advice when I know how to eat? I know how to eat so well. I was telling people how to lose weight. I was getting people to lose 100 pounds plus when I was counseling people on nutrition. And here I am getting fatter and fatter and fatter following the dietary advice of a lunatic named John McDougall. So I went back to my high-protein vegan diet. I follow now what I would call a vegan cron diet. It's calorie restricted, optimized with the nutrition, and of course I take nutritional supplements, vitamins, etc. Of course I'm making that playlist, and I have one coming up on Paradoxine. I supplement with micronutrients quite freely, and I supplement with amino acids and things of that nature. But I must say, if it was not for Greg Doucette and other people like Natalie Matthews, and Natalie Matthews is a vegan bodybuilder, I would not, and Brian Turner, and he's another vegan bodybuilder, I wouldn't have realized, seriously, what the fuck was I doing to myself with this starch-based diet? So I do owe Greg Doucette quite a bit as far as helping me straighten out my diet, helping me take a step back and realize the cognitive dissonance between what was going on. And I just, for whatever reason, I went on the starch solution as an experiment, and I should have stopped it pretty quickly. Because it did not pay off. I mean, though I will be honest, I did put on a lot of muscle on that diet, which still somewhat perplexes me because there was virtually no protein on the diet. I mean, I was getting maybe 60 to 70 grams of protein a day at the most. Maybe. Most days it was probably 40 or 50 grams of protein, which is that's not enough for somebody my size because, I'm supposed to weigh anywhere between 150 and I think 180 pounds is what my BMI is, what a healthy BMI would be for me. And of course the heavy, in the middle is where you really want to be. You don't want to be too skinny. You don't want to be too fat. And yeah, I need a lot more protein than that. And I knew that as a trained personal trainer. For whatever reason, that McDougall did something about it. I was just thinking, this is what I need to do as a vegan or some shit. I don't know what was going on in my head, especially because I was a vegan long before I came across this McDougall crap. But once I started experimenting with that diet, who knows, maybe I had a fat deficiency and my brain was shrinking from the lack of healthy fats. I have no idea, but the fact of the matter is, Greg Doucette, Brian Turner, and Natalie Matthews, 3 bodybuilders, and even people because I subscribe to them, what's her name, Erin Stern, the Miss Olympia. She was, I think, 2-time Miss Olympia. following her videos, I started realizing, I need to start eating like a person again, and I need to start implementing a nutritional strategy. And I went back to basing my nutritional strategy more around the teachings of, like, for me, what I've always based my nutritional stuff around since I was younger, when I initially had to lose weight, are people like Dr. Atkins, Adele Davis, still vegan. And that's the thing that's frustrating, is people don't understand you can do virtually any diet vegan. It's just a matter of, do you have the cojones to do it? Are you dedicated enough to the veganism to eat the vegan version of the food? And the vegan, a lot of people, I don't understand what people's aversion is to vegan food. For many years when I was vegan, a lot of what I ate was just vegetable dishes with extra servings of nuts and seeds and beans, especially like black soybeans or soybeans or things like that. I have a hard time understanding, and now that's a very vegan diet. Like my original vegan version of, like, I would eat, extra vegetables and beans, primarily, things like that. And, I don't understand what people's aversion is to vegan food. It's just food. I mean, if you eat a normal diet, that's pretty much what it is. Now, vegan versions of meats, I think a lot of the aversion just comes from people knowing they're vegan. I don't understand what the aversion is to, like, for example, right now I'm eating a type of textured soy protein. It's carne de soya or something. It comes from Mexico, and it's quite affordable compared to tofu, and it's zero fat. So I invested in a lot of that so that I would have a lot of protein. It's very high in protein, and I wanted to have access to cheap protein, primarily for weight management. I'm still trying to get my weight back down, trying to get my health under control. And that's why I invested in this textured vegetable protein. But to be quite honest, I mean, the texture is a little bit off, but for the most part, if you season it properly, it really does. I mean, everybody says everything tastes like chicken. I wouldn't say it tastes like chicken, but it does taste like some sort of a meat. Now, if you were to put MSG in there or something like that, it would taste fabulous. I have to buy some MSG. And that's the thing, is you have to learn, like Roy Walford said, the guy that created the Cron diet. Like he said, you need to learn to use seasonings. And I'm sure Greg Doucette's cookbook has a lot of seasonings in it. I've never read his cookbook. I never purchased the cookbook. But I will say it is Greg Doucette that saved me from the starch solution, saved me from the bad dietary advice of Dr. John McDougall. And ultimately, I don't want people thinking that I was trying to mislead them. And I encourage people to watch Greg's channel. In fact, I'll leave a link to Greg's channel in the description. I don't want people being confused about what Greg stands for. He promotes health first. He's not somebody that's promoting, this body destruction as bodybuilding. I also want people to know I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not a power lifter. I don't have a master's degree in kinesiology like Greg does. I'm not masquerading as somebody that has these experiences. The overarching point of that video that I made was the point that cardio, from what is being shown today, may not be as necessary as was thought previously in the maintenance of cardiac health. That strength training may actually be more beneficial than, say, cardiovascular exercise, and that you can achieve the same amount of health benefits from less weightlifting than you could from cardiovascular exercise. Now, that's not even the camp I fall into as far as exercise goes. I believe in long duration exercise. I just believe, or not even necessarily long duration exercise. I do long duration exercises because I enjoy exercising. It's just something I enjoy. Whether that's an issue or not, I don't know. If I start developing health problems, of course, that would be an issue. But it's not from the exercise that I developed the health problems. It was from the poor diet that I was taking the advice of McDougall. My particular camp is I'm not somebody, as I said, I prefer to exercise for longevity, which is why I personally promote moderate exercise, and I promote the concept of breaking up the exercise throughout the day. Now, of course, strength training for about an hour or so, 3 times a week or so, hitting the whole body between those days, you need strength training to reverse sarcopenia. And a really big, really important point that I would like to make is a really mandatory way to keep from developing sarcopenia is to consume 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And it doesn't seem to matter whether it comes from plants or animals. And there's research to show that. And I will leave that research in the description. But the point is that to reverse or keep from developing sarcopenia, protein intake is extremely important, which was something that for whatever reason, it went right out of my head. And high protein consumption is important to keep from developing sarcopenia and to keep from developing other health conditions and for fluid balance and things of that nature. So keep that in mind that yes, yes, protein intake, overall protein intake is extremely important, and that strength training is important, and you do need, for the most part, even if you are moderately exercising, you need to do a considerable amount of strength training every week. And this is not coming from Greg or anything like that. I'm not disagreeing with Greg here or anything like that. The overarching point of that video, where I most certainly do disagree with Greg, is the idea of cardio. I don't think cardio is necessary. So like even walking, I don't think walking should count as exercise when compared to something like Pilates or calisthenics. And yes, you'll burn more calories walking, but I believe that the overall benefits of Pilates, now there should be more research to do this. I don't think there is any research to do this, but I guarantee you that if you had 3 groups, 1 calisthenics, 1 Pilates, and one walking only, and you did this for like a year, well, you never find people to agree to do it for a year, but I guarantee you the calisthenics group would probably have the best health impact, meaning the most consistent health, the biomarkers of health would be the most consistently positive in the calisthenics group, probably followed by the Pilates group, and the walking group probably wouldn't have the greatest. Now, I'm using walking as an example of cardio there, because, now remember, this is an imaginary study. This study did not happen, but the reason I'm using walking is because walking is a low to moderate form of cardio. It's not jogging, it's not running. And the other thing I like about Greg is Greg points out the limitations of HIIT, H-I-I-T. I've never been somebody that enjoyed HIIT or CrossFit. I think they're jokes. And I'm glad Greg has called that out for what it is. And I'm glad he's also brought up what interval training is, because not enough people that are younger understand what these things are. And that's all for this video. I hope I clarified everything. I owe Greg a lot for getting me out of my cognitive dissonance. And that's all for this video.